Good evening, everyone. Today we are gonna have a session on personalized learning, that is, making learning meaningful, inclusive, and student centered. So, my name is Sudha, and I will be the host for today's session. So, let's move on to the session without wasting much of our time. So, what's the agenda for today's session? The agenda for today's session will be what is personalized learning, why it matters, the core elements. We will be talking about the core elements of the personalized learning, the CBSE perspective with a pinch of NEP 2020, and then strategies and tools, challenges and solutions, reflections, and Q&A. These will be the agenda for today's session. Okay, so then we are moving on to the next. Now, before starting off the session, I would like you to have a icebreaker session. Before we begin, let's think about for a moment about our own classrooms. Do all our students learn the same way? Do they all grasp the concepts in the same speed? The reality is each child is unique with different strength, different weakness, and interest. The diversity is exactly why personalized learning is not just a concept but a necessity. So that's the reason why we have taken that as a session. Now, let's move on to the definition of personalized learning. Personalized learning means tailoring education to an individual needs, strength, and interest of each student. It gives flexibility in pacing, so children who need more time to get it and those who are ready to move ahead can do so. It also gives students the agency, the ability to make choices and take ownership of their learning journey. In simple terms, personalized learning makes education about the child and it does not restrict itself to the syllabus. Now, let's move on to the next. Why personalized learning? Why do we need a personalized learning? So, it helps the students take the ownership of their studies. It makes learning more engaging. It bridges the learning gaps and it prepares them for the real life beyond the classrooms. And personalized learning creates confident learners who know how to apply knowledge in practical ways. So now let's compare the traditional way of learning and the personalized learning. So traditionally, we teach all students with the same content at the same pace and assess them in the same way. It's more or less like a like a one size fit approach. But the personalized learning, on the other hand, it is flexible. It adapts to the learner's pace. It puts the student at the center and allows different methods of assessment. It's about moving from the uniformity to the diversity. Now, let's move into the core part of personalized learning, that is, the core elements of personalized learning. So, they are learner profiles, differentiated instructions, flexible pathways, and student agency. Let's look at each and everything one by one. What is meant by learner's profile? Creating a learner's profile means collecting the information about our students. So, that means what all the things which excites them, what all challenges them, how they prefer to learn. For example, a child who loves visuals may prefer diagrams and mind maps, while another one who enjoys debates may learn through discussions. So profiles helps us to design the activities that connects better with each learner. Now, moving on to the next one, the differentiated instruction. What is meant by differentiated instruction? It is the teaching the same concept in different ways. For instance, if you are teaching a history lesson, one student writes an essay, another may create a timeline, and yet another may create a comic strip. The goal is the same, but the path of reaching it is pretty different. Moving on to the next one, that is the third core element in personalized learning, which is flexible pathways. In personalized learning, students don't need all to move at the same speed. So, some may need extra time, while others may be ready to move forward quickly. CBSE's flexibility in internal assessment, if you see in the CBSE schools and all, our internal assessment, our project works, everything. So that supports this idea. It is one of the core elements which we use in our CBSE schools. The focus is on mastering the concepts and not rushing through it. Moving on to the next core element, that is student agency. So let's look at what is student agency. It means giving children the power to make choices in their learning. For example, letting them choose their project topic on setting their own learning goals. When students are involved in decision making, they feel responsible and motivated. They learn not only just the content but also the important life skills like decision making, self management, etc. Now let's connect it with the major topic, that is NEP 2020 and the CBSE, how it has been connected to. The National Education Policy 2020 emphasizes competency-based learning, that is the experiential learning, flexibility, etc. And CBSE also have adopted these principles, focusing on skills rather than the rote memorization. So personalized learning directly aligns with all these reforms, making our teaching more relevant for today's learners. Now, what is the role of assessment in the personalized learning? In personalized learning, assessment goes beyond the exams. They are formative, then feedback driven, and they are diversified in their own ways. A project, a presentation, or even a peer discussion can be the assessment tools. The idea is to move from the assessment of learning to the assessment for learning. So that is the assessment of learning to assessment for learning, where assessments guide and improve the child's progress. Now, let's look at the next one, that is inclusivity. So, personalized learning ensures inclusivity, that is, it supports slow learners with scaffolding and remedial work, while also challenging gifted learners with enrichment tasks. It respects linguistic, cultural, and social diversity. Every child gets an opportunity to succeed in their own way. So, now let's look at the key strategies, the overview of strategies. So, some of the strategies that make personalized learning practical in the classroom includes the choice boards, the flipped learning, peer tutoring, project-based learning. Each of these strategies can be adapted easily into our classrooms. So let's look at one by one in detail. What is meant by a choice board? A choice board means it's a menu of activities. That is, when we see the students choose a task based on their strength and interest. For example, in English, they may have chosen to write an essay, compose a poem, or create a podcast. All tasks aim at the same learning outcome. But students reach them there in different ways. That is the choice board. Now the next one, flipped classroom. As you can see in the image of the flipped classroom, so it gives a pretty good clarity on how it is going to be different from the traditional method of classroom teaching. So in a flipped classroom, students learn basics at home through a video or a reading or a worksheet. In the class, instead of listening passively, they apply their learning, ask questions, and solve problems. This frees up the classroom time for discussion and personalized guidance. Now, let's look at the third one, that is the peer learning. So, in peer learning, it's another powerful tool. The student explain the concepts to one another, work in groups, and support each other. It builds collaboration and communication skills. In large classrooms, this is very, very effective. And even teachers act as facilitators there. The students will be completely engaged as well. Moving on to the next one, that is project based learning, PBL. In the project based learning, students work on the real time problems that matters to them. For example, a science or a social project on waste management in the school. So it makes the learning more meaningful, interdisciplinary, and it's completely student driven. Now, what are all the digital tools and how it's gonna help in the personalized learning? So, if you can see, the digital tools make personalization pretty easier. So, if you see, so the digital tools make the personalization easier. That is the Google Classroom, MS Teams, Kahoot, Quiz, allow to differentiate, track, and engage the students in interactive ways. I think I'm getting a message that somebody wants to let me in. Just a moment. Okay. Yeah. It enhances personalization, but personalization can happen without these digital tools too. Now, moving on to the next part, that is data driven teaching. What is meant by data driven teaching? Personalized learning relies on understanding the student's data, test the results, class participation, homework, all those things. By analyzing this data, we can see who needs extra support and who is ready for the enrichment. So, teaching becomes more focused and effective here in the data driven teaching. Now, moving on to the next part, that is case study. So, in case study, if we see, in a school, teachers use choice boards, then peer mentoring and all. Over the time, students become more engaged. Weaker learners are improved, and academic scores have gone up. This shows that even small steps towards personalization can make a big difference. This is a small success story. This can be taken as a case study. Now, when we are talking about the personalized learning, there are quite a few challenges as well. Of course, the teachers have faced increased workload. That is one of the thing, and then limited resources. Some in some things also we can see they have the lack of student motivation. At times we see that student does not open up that much. That will create another problem. So these are the real concerns that must be acknowledged. Now, for every problem there are solutions, right? So solution includes the collaborative planning among the teachers, using a digital resource effectively, and starting small, one strategy at a time. Over the time it becomes easier to manage and benefits it will overweigh the challenges for sure. Now, let's do a small activity. Let's think of a scenario where you can see, suppose you have a student who is shy but not a good at writing, but the child is very good at writing. I'm sorry. How would you personalize learning for this child? Maybe we will encourage them to write reflections or stories instead of oral presentations, or pair them with the partner for group work. Then the key finding approaches can be maybe that builds on their strength while addressing their challenges. So these can be some of the cases. Now, what's our reflection? A major one. When we have any learning, what's the reflection? To conclude, the personalized learning is not just a teaching method, it's a philosophy which makes the education more meaningful, builds confidence, and prepares students for life. As teachers, our role shifts from being knowledge delivers to facilitators of each child's unique journey. So, now let's look at the key takeaways of today's session. Here are some key takeaways. Personalized learning is a learner centered, flexible, inclusive, and practical one. It is possible that in all the classroom with small but consistent changes. So now it's open to questions and answers. I would like to open the floor to any questions or any clarifications or any experience you would like to share. Because personalized learning works best when teachers collaborate and learn from each other. So, if we don't have anything, we will move forward. Okay, since no one are having any Q&A, so I would like to conclude that thank you for participating today. I expected more people to join, but the strength was comparatively low. I would like to end this with a thought. Every child deserves a learning journey uniquely theirs. As educators, we have the power to make the possible, to make that as possible. So, thank you once again.